Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the other side of Lammerts Bay, to the calm beach side. If I get boring, you can just watch the kids playing in the sand behind me. It's just wonderful to watch them playing. But I wanted to continue from what we were talking about yesterday, talking about standing in the gap. And you will only stand in the gap that God sees and wants you to see and shows it to you. We said yesterday how that Moses stood in the gap because God said to Moses, I have seen the plight of the nation of Israel. I have seen the sadness of them being in turmoil. I've seen them in their pain and in their suffering. And now, Moses, I don't just see them, I hear their cry. Now, here's a great application for us today as well. You know, some of us have been praying for many years over certain things, and we're wondering if God ever hears us. We're wondering if God ever just takes notice of us, or are our prayers kind of distant and far away? And sometimes we're tempted to just kind of give up on our prayers, are we not? And yet here's an encouragement to say that God hears your cry. There's no cry that comes from a saint of God, no cry that comes from a child of God, no cry that comes from a repentant person that God does not hear. I just love the story of blind Bartimaeus. I think it's Mark chapter 10, where blind Bartimaeus is sitting at the gate and he's crying out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. The guy is blind, he can't see anything. And the people begin to shout at Bartimaeus, and they say, Bartimaeus, just be quiet. Don't you know that Jesus is an important person? He hasn't really got time for you. He hasn't got time to hear your cry. He's on a great mission, and we need to rush on now, Bartimaeus, to see Jesus. When all of a sudden they get to Jesus and they find that he's standing still, and they say, so Jesus, why are you standing still? And Jesus says, I hear something. And they say, Jesus, what do you hear? He says, I hear the cry of a person. And they say, but Jesus, everybody's crying for you. Everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants to ask you for something. And Jesus would have smiled and said, I hear the cry of faith. I hear the cry of somebody who's been crying for so long. I will not move from here until I hear his cry personally. And so you know the story from then, as Jesus meets with Bartimaeus and heals him, gives him back his sight. And Bartimaeus, after years and years of crying for attention, suddenly gets Jesus' attention and is beautifully, most beautifully healed. There's also a great parallel to this in the book of Revelation, talking about the prayers of God and the prayers of the saints as they go up to God. And it says they're like an incense, the smell of incense that is beautiful to God as he smells the aroma of the prayers of the saints. So much so, people, that he tells all the angels, hey, angels, everybody be quiet now, everybody quiet. And they're saying, but God, why do you want us to be quiet? And he says, because I want to hear the prayer of my people. I want to hear the saints as they cry out to me so that I can meet their need. And all of heaven, we read, went silent for a period of time. Now that's a great passage. There's some great theology in there, but there's some great application for us. Listen, I know some of you. I know that many of you have been praying for many years for loved ones, for family, for children, for husbands, for wives, for businesses. You've been praying a long time. And I can't blame you for thinking, does God even hear my prayers? Does God even take notice of me in my dilemma? Does God hear me at all? Maybe I should just dry up and blow away because he hasn't heard me. People, don't ever think that God does not hear you. You keep praying. You keep asking. You keep worshiping God, and there's not a prayer that you pray that he does not hear. There's not a prayer of repentance from a sinner that God does not pray and delights to answer in his time. There's also that beautiful picture in the book of Daniel where Daniel has been praying for a period of time, and it would appear that there's no answer. But all of a sudden, Michael the archangel has arrived, but he arrives, in Daniel's opinion, a little bit late. And he says to Archangel Michael, says, "Where have you been, man? I prayed this prayer a long time ago." And Michael the Archangel, he says, "Don't you know, there's a war going on in heaven. And it took me this long to get here to you because I had to fight my way through the armies of Satan and the spiritual world around me. But here I am to answer your prayer." Guys, maybe that's your situation. Maybe there's delay. It's not that God hasn't answered. There might be this delay, but be aware, whatever you pray, God hears. God hears. Apply that to your life today, I pray. And I hope it works out well for you. Cheers, guys. Bye.